All right. You ready, bud?
I am.
All right, cool. What's up, everybody? Oh, shit. I forgot which episode number this is. I think it's 36. Yeah, 36. That was the one thing I didn't check. Welcome to episode 36 of Ask Broman. It's kind of a cool day today. We're on Twitch right now, like always. And today is my 5-year anniversary of my first broadcast on Twitch. So that is, I don't know, cool, I guess. And we're joined today by a guest. His name is AngryIceberg. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And as you can tell, he is a broadcaster as well. One of the reasons I have AngryIceberg on is because along with streaming on Twitch, he also does radio work. So I thought in the ever long quest of bringing you guys as much value as possible out of the podcast, that having a radio personality who also does live broadcasting would offer an interesting perspective for anyone who's listening. So AngryIceberg, do you want to let everybody know like who you are, like maybe your real person name if you feel like it, and just kind of let them know how you got started on Twitch and how you got started on radio?
Okay, well, my name is Kevin, which, you know, I very rarely, well, I mean, I don't really hide that from anybody. I mean, everybody knows my name is Kevin Burke, my last name, and kind of where my name actually came from. I've been, you know, AngryIceberg comes from a nickname that I've had for since I was a little kid, which was Iceberg, you know, from fall and stuff like that. I was always kind of a bigger kid, and so they always called me Iceberg. And then when I got started streaming, I tacked on Angry onto it because just my face. So, you know, some people call it that resting bitch face. Okay. But I have kind of a, you know, like kind of a heavy brow.
So you have resting bastard face.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have that, you know, just a brow, and so it kind of looks like I'm scowling all the time, and with my, you know, my lips just naturally turned down. So everybody's like, you know, I'll just be sitting there relaxing and be completely content, and people just come up and it's like, why are you so mad all the time? I'm like, I'm not. You know,
I'm just joy.
Relaxing, you know. Yeah, and so you get, after a long time, you know, that kind of actually gets annoying. Usually when people would ask me that, it would kind of put me in a bad mood. So I'm like, I'm fine until somebody says that. You know, that's where the angry came from. I was like, well, when I first started streaming, I was, you know, trying to think about names. I was trying to think of, okay, you know, what can go with Iceberg? And then I thought, well, people are always thinking I look mad. So, you know, I figured that when I started streaming, you know, I'd have trolls or somebody, you know, people coming into the stream and saying the same thing. That's just kind of what I expected. So I was like, well, I'm just going to head it off of the past. And so when people come in, it's like, why you look so mad? Because I'm an angry iceberg.
Because you're super pissed off. Now, you also do something interesting, which is you're always a floating head on stream.
Yeah. 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 So that started.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, that started with Halloween of 2015. You know, I started in July of 2015, and in Halloween of 2015, I was thinking, okay, it was a Saturday, and I thought let's do a Halloween themed stream, right? So we wanted a costume. So I thought about it for a while, and I was like, well, why don't we just do like, I'll do a floating head. I wore a pink wig, and I had this black mask thing on, and a fake beard, which is, you know, kind of ironic. Back then, my beard wasn't very long, and I can talk, you know, mention why I started growing my beard. But
yeah, we have a lot of really cool shit to talk about today. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah. So if you look at my Twitter, it's a pinned tweet. It's a pinned tweet, so you'll be able to see that original day. So October 31st, 2015, the day the floating head was born. You'll see me again with pink wig and the whole nine. And I got pretty drunk that night. It was a lot of fun. But then the next morning, you know, I was thinking, you know, I got this set up. It works. Why don't we just go ahead and keep doing it? Because back then I was still very much studying streaming, like taking all the tips and everything that I could find, you know, visiting Reddit and YouTube and everywhere to find everything. And one of the common things that you learn if you do the research or you listen to people talk about it is you always have to find a way to kind of stand out. You know, something that's a little bit different that, you know, other people aren't doing. And I'm not claiming that I was the first one to do this, because I'm certainly not. But, yeah, you know, it was something that I didn't really see anybody do. I was like, well, let's give it a shot, see how people react to it. And people reacted really well. So it just kind of stuck. And so that's how the whole floating head thing. And then a couple months later, and I can't even take credit for this, but a dude, one of my mods named Big Mike, he came up with the tagline, people would come out with, why are you a floating heads? Well, I'm an iceberg. That's what we do. We float. So it kind of just had a nice.
I got it. Nice synergy.
Yeah. So, but in regards to the beard, though, just to kind of get back to that, people talk about, my beard a lot. It's kind of become, it wasn't really intended.
If you guys never watched, if you guys have never watched Angry Iceberg, I want to let you know he's got a very glorious Viking beard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am Norwegian by descent, so kind of makes sense. Yeah, that straight, big, thick, straight beard. So we're all a hairy folk. But so where that kind of came from, and like I said, I never intended to become kind of a trademark or something people expected, but it just kind of turned into that. There was a friend of mine who I was streaming with back then. Really awesome dude. He had a really nice lush beard, and his name was Messiah 420. I used to do a lot of trial stuff. Real nice guy. And, we talked a lot, and, we talk off stream and discuss things. And this was back in, I think this was in October. We were like, okay, let's make a pact. Neither of us will shave our beards until we're partnered. Okay. And so that was it. I was just like, okay, we're just going to start growing this out. And then, I figured, okay, when I get partnered, then I'll, shave it. And this is, of course, back then I would average maybe 10 people back then, watching me. And so it's like, I never really figured I'd ever get partners. Like, it was kind of one of those packs, like, well, it's a reason to stop shaving, cause I'm kind of lazy anyway. So, but he already had a really great beard. So I was like, I was trying to have him to keep his beard, but unfortunately, he kind of fell away from streaming a little bit, like real life kind of got in the way for him. And he started, he went to work and he had to actually shave it for a job. And so, but he still comes around with it. He's a super nice guy. If you ever get to see him, just say hi. But, so that's kind of where it started. And then, like I said, it just became a part of who I am. And I can't even imagine myself without a beard,
Yeah. So what got, so that's how you got started on Twitch. What got you started doing radio work? Like how was that journey for anyone who's out there interested in getting involved in doing radio work? Like, what was that journey like for you? Do you have any advice for somebody who might be starting that journey right now? And like, just where to get started?
Well, for mine's not an exceptional story. Mine's basically, I live in a very small market. And
small market meaning what?
Meaning there's not a lot of people where I live, and so our reach is fairly limited. Basically, our reach is the southwest-ish corner of North Dakota. Okay. So we are. I'm trying to think. I think our AM station reaches. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. That's going to be our strongest transmitter. Okay. But it can reach about maybe 100 miles away from the transmitter and so but at any rate, so basically we don't, our office has 5 employees. Okay. And so basically what it was is they were advertising, hey, we need part-time help. I went in and answered the ad, and basically went and filled an application. It turned out that the guy that was the production manager, the guy that was doing the hiring, was somebody I had worked with before. And he had heard my voice. I used to call bingo, and I used to kind of do it in a radio voice type way, like B22. Yeah. B22, stuff like that. An 069. That was like my favorite. Every time, and everybody always got a good laugh out of that one. But at any rate, so yeah, when I applied, he's like, yeah, let's get you in here, just almost instantly. I mean, he didn't take my application, but he called me the next day. He's like, yeah, let's get you in here and let's get you hired. And so that was basically it. And I kind of learned, some stuff from him. And most of what I did was, on the production side, running the board for different, events. I did have, my weekend show that I did on the country station, which I'm not even a country fan, but you kind of do.
How many stations do you operate on right now?
Well, we have 3 in our branch. We have a rock station, we have a country station, and then we have an AM country station. Okay, which is more classic country. The FM country station is current hits, like what they call today's hot country, stuff like that. So, and then the the rock station's kind of like Avenged Sevenfold sort of
Gotcha.
thing. But they
Yeah,
mention a lot of kind of older stuff too. But these are all this is an iHeart chain, like so.
Yeah, iHeartRadio. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I mean, like I said, I took advantage of an opportunity, and so I'm still part-time for there, but they're kind of waiting to open up the production manager job right now, and so just whenever that opens up, I'm gonna apply for it and hopefully get on there full-time and just run all three of those stations.
That's exciting, man.
A lot of fun.
So you just answered a request ad,
right,
to get involved in radio, and then you started hosting radio.
Yep.
What was the onboarding like for that? I have a lot of follow-up questions now.
For me, there really wasn't any. It was basically, there was basically my boss brought me in, the production manager. Then he brought me in, and he's like, okay, this is how the board works, which is, it's relatively simple, and just here you go. And I tell you what, my first day when I first was going live and starting, to talk over the air, I was super nervous. And I think that actually helped me with streaming, because like when I started streaming was about a year or two, maybe a couple of years after I started working in radio. And, you hear a lot of people talk about how, they get nervous before they start streaming. Well,
Stage fright. Yeah,
I've never had that, because I got over that with radio, because it used to be where, like, when I first started doing radio, I would have to be like, okay, what am I going to say? I'd be like, for like 2 or 3 minutes before I'd actually go on air, like say, before the song, when I was, I'd be like, okay, what am I going to say? And I'd like rehearse it in my head. I was really nervous about screwing it up. But after a while, I was like, you know what? You don't, the nice thing about it, and the same thing with streaming, is you don't actually see the people you're talking to. And so I didn't really care. You don't get that immediate feedback. You do in streaming, but in radio, you don't get any real feedback.
You don't get any feedback unless they're really mad on Twitter. Would you say that, like operating in a traditional broadcast job before you came over to live streaming on Twitch, like how would you compare the two as far as like energy necessary, like prep time? Well, I'm really curious as to like which one do you feel like is more difficult and why?
I would say that's a good question.
Or if you think they're equivalently difficult but for different reasons, I'd love that.
I think they can be for reasons, but it really depends on what was expected out of you. Like, I was never really given any direction for my show. So, you have the nice thing about radio is that, if you're playing, especially if you're playing a song, unless you're like a full on talk radio guy, that'd probably be a lot more difficult, where you have to make a lot of content. But with in a normal like DJ setting, for example, you're going to be playing, 10 minutes of songs or better, and then you'll speak for like 30 seconds to a minute, right?
Yeah.
You're not really going to you don't have to really prepare a whole lot of content in that time. And it really kind of depends on how your show's set up. So in that aspect, it's pretty easy because you can use that time in between to kind of prepare what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas like live streaming, you have to be on like the whole time. And if you're a type of person who does a lot of hours, if you're putting in like, 5-10 hours, of content, you have to be on the whole time. So in that regards, I think streaming is considerably harder because, the prep time is different. You either have to prepare before the show or after the show or whatever for your next show. So I think in that regard, I would say that maybe streaming might be a little bit more difficult, and as far as trying to be entertaining.
Yeah. Interesting. So would you say for anyone who's interested in getting into radio, would moving to like an underrepresented market be a smart move for them? I don't know how connected you are in that space, but like the fact that you were in North Dakota and there's just like no radio DJs in North Dakota really helped you get your first gig. So would that be like an effective hack for somebody who's out there trying to get into the radio space?
It maybe. I mean, I think if you were to, if you find the right situation, you'd have to do the research and make sure that the situation's available. I think that for the most part, going into, studying broadcasting, in a like a university setting or something like that's going to be your best bet.
Really?
To really break in. Yeah.
So you say you really like so many professions do not require an education, or like they care more about your experience than they care about education. But like with broadcasting, you'd say it was a must or a.
No, I wouldn't say it's a must. I think that it's just, like just moving somewhere and expecting, it's such a gamble.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously it's a crazy move, but
sure. But I mean, like just getting that college experience and especially, if you can go into a situation, because when you a lot of the universities, they have their university radio station, and that might be enough. You could be studying, you could be just going to school and and studying to be a plumber or whatever. But I mean, if you got, you have that radio experience, you can at least go on and say, okay, I already know how to work the board. I know how to work the broadcasting software.
Gotcha.
Because iHeart uses the same broadcasting software all over the place. So I could go to, any iHeart station all over the country, and I know how to, run their board. Just having that experience is important, for the most part. And, if depending on where you're going. But like I said, if you can find some of those smaller markets where, there's nobody else applying because, they don't, they don't want to live in. People think they need training. So it's, I don't know. It's
where do you stay in North Dakota?
I live in Dickinson, which is southwest North Dakota.
Is that like super populated?
No. I mean, like you consider there's like maybe 700,000 people in the whole state, and most of that's over in Fargo and Grand Forks, and that's on the eastern part of the state. So where I live, there is, I think, I'm not sure what the population is up to right now, but during the height of the oil boom, when that was going on, I think we got up to like 26,000. Oh yeah,
you guys had like a massive oil rush out there, and people were like, it made the news. People were getting paid like $25 an hour to get to work at like a Domino's out there.
Well, no,
not that. So it wasn't. You were that close.
Well, no. They weren't getting paid $25 working at Domino's, but they were getting paid $25 or better to go out in the oil field.
Okay,
they're out in the patch. I mean, the base wage did go up for sure.
Yeah,
for many places, because they had to compete. They were having such a hard time finding workers. And
they have to compete against the oil companies, so you got to pay more people at Domino's and shit. I remember that. I remember that there were places in North Dakota where people were literally just driving there and living out of their car because every job there was paying so well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like that was a lot of that was up in Williston. So a lot of the stories you'll hear, and I think they actually tried to do a TV show, and there's documentaries. A lot of that stuff is focused around Williston because it got really crazy up there. I mean, people were living in the Walmart parking lot, and then eventually they ended up getting kicked out. And it was, the housing, because the thing
housing exploded too, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, all that came in and their infrastructure wasn't there for it. And so they had to, all the hotels were rented out. All the rooms, the oil companies would rent out all the rooms, so you couldn't get a hotel room.
Oh my God.
Then they started building a whole bunch of hotels, and all of a sudden, all these apartments started going up, and the oil companies were buying the houses. In fact, my folks who lived kind of between Dickinson and Williston, they lived, about 90 miles north of where I live, and they were right in the heart of it. Right in the middle. It's called the Bakken Shale Formation.
Okay.
And they lived right in the middle of it, and they were trying. My stepmom was trying to sell her little farmstead, and it was a pretty good size group, size land, and she was just working in her yard, and they had some offers, but nothing really what they wanted to take. And then all of a sudden, this pickup pulls in and into the yard and starts talking to my stepmom, and he was like, "How much you want?" And she listed the price, which was, I don't even know how, it was in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. Pulls out his checkbook, starts writing.
Just writes the check. Oh my God.
Writes the check. It was a guy from an oil field. Basically, he wanted the land just to put up housing for his workers.
That is
insane. The amount of money that was floating around here was insane.
That's crazy. Did any of that make it to the radio station at all, or? No, I'm still. That's the thing you should know. If anybody's looking to do radio, you do not make money unless you're one of these, syndicated guys. Mm-hmm.
That you hear. These, because right now radio is so different now. A lot of the at least around here, a lot of the DJs you hear were recorded or are remote.
Yeah,
like we have the Woody Show. I don't know if anybody knows of the Woody Show. We get the Woody Show. It's syndicated in our rock station. And then there's Bobby Bones as a syndicated DJ.
Oh yeah, he used to be on in St. Louis. Yeah,
yeah,
there that is.
So a lot of that's kind of a lot of it is, you know, at least for iHeart, you know, if there's smaller stations and stuff like that that still have, you know, traditional live broadcasters, but that's what I mean. Like we have at our station, we have 3 salespeople, and one is also the business manager, and then we have one old DJ guy that just he's been there for so long they don't have the heart to hire him, you know, or let him go. You know, he does his show on the AM station every day, and that's pretty much it. So, and then there's me who's part-time. So yeah, it's really understaffed there, and we're running 3 stations, you know. That's
wild, man. So you would also recommend anyone who's interested in getting into radio to realize it's a passion sort of situation. It's not it's gonna pay the bills and have some interesting perks, but it's not like. Yeah, because when I was growing up, I was like, motherfuckers on the radio got to be killing it. Millions of people listen to them; they're making so much money. And then I got to learn about the, you know, just like the ecosystem of it, and I was like, oh no, people are not getting paid. At all.
You don't make a whole lot of money there, you know. But it's, I mean, as long as you enjoy your job, I mean, that's
all that fucking matters. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Are the hours nice? Like.
Well, for me, like I said, I'm part-time. They just call me up and say, hey, we got this thing going on. Are you available? I'm like, yep. And then I go do it. So it's sometimes it's like I get a call like the day before because they're really bad about scheduling. So, but you know, before this is kind of more recent, you know, because the old production manager that I had, he has since moved on, or was kind of forced to move on. But at any rate, so back then I was putting in probably 20 hours a week, but now it's just kind of like whenever. Like I worked last night for a couple hours, you know, but it is what it is. I have a normal 9-to-5 job that I work on. So.
Yeah. You also have a relatively interesting, is understating it. You have a very interesting story about, I guess, like the social power of Twitch connecting you with people in your life. Do you want to talk about that? Because I'd love for you to. I don't know if it's something you've been public about, but
in what respect? I'm not following exactly where you're going with that.
Family. Reconnecting. So, you know, like we had a conversation. So if you guys don't know, AngryIceberg was one of the broadcasters that we worked with, St. Jude.
Okay,
and he shared something with me while we were at St. Jude that I thought was incredible. People underestimate the value and power of like the social capabilities of like all forms of media, and that's Twitch included. Do you know what we're talking about now?
Yeah. Okay, I got it now. So, yeah, you know, we all live with a bit of regret, right? There's always, you know, bad decisions, but out of those bad decisions come, you know, some silver lining. And in my case, I'm talking about my first marriage, and if to go back on it, you look at it as like, well, you know, maybe you could have avoided that bad decision because it was a really bad decision to be with this person. But we had a beautiful son, an awesome dude, very intelligent, smart, and when we split up, it got kind of ugly. Not right away, but after a while. And I spent, you know, I was very close to my son for about the first 9 years of my life. You know, I was always in his life, and you know, circumstances as they were, we got kind of separated, and basically his mom kind of forced me out of his life. And there's a whole thing, and I don't want to talk bad about her because it's not really fair for her.
Yeah, it's not about that. It's about
it. Sure. But at any rate, so I didn't talk to my son he was 9 years old. And I used to have to go to his school to actually see him. And then 6th grade, I wasn't able to. They wouldn't let me see him anymore because his mom was, you know, blocking it. And it's a whole thing with the legal system and whatever.
Yeah,
but anyway, so last February, I was just streaming. It was a Saturday night. I was, you know, drinking on Saturday, like, you know, drinking some bourbon like I usually do. And somebody shows up and starts saying a bunch of some personal information, you know, like where I lived and some family names and stuff like this. And I'm like, you know, it kind of freaked me out because, like I said, I hadn't talked to my son for like 9 years, almost 9 years, 8-9 years. And all of a sudden, you know, somebody claiming to be my son was in my chat, you know, spouting out all this stuff. And I was like, the first thing that came to mind, was that, somebody hacked my information and was starting to, cause me a lot of problems. So I really kind of freaked out about it. So I was like, okay, if you're really who you say you are, you'll be able to answer this one question.
Okay, partner. We need to find more of our mystery monsters trail.
Consequently weren't able to answer. I thought there's no way that they wouldn't be able to know this thing.
Or an optional quest.
It's basically I asked him what his old nickname was, and because he should have known that, but he kind of forgot. At any rate, so I kind of, it's like, okay, you're out of here, whatever. And then eventually I was like, well, okay, I better go ahead and chance that maybe this is my son, because I always kind of thought about, it's like, what if he found me through streaming? So we got to talking, and I finally realized that it was actually him, and so we kind of talked things out. He came from a place of resentment. He was pretty angry at the time, and there was a lot of misunderstandings, and so we kind of worked through that a little bit, and we're like, okay, let's put the past behind us. We don't really talk about the past a whole lot, but I said, let's put, we agreed to put the past behind us and move forward. And what happened was that his girlfriend at the time actually had found me, and I don't know how she found me or knew that I was his dad, but she found me and then told him about it. And then it turned out, see, the funny thing is that, like I said, I was out of his life for a good 8 years, not by choice, but I was out of his life for a good 8 years. And he followed a lot of the same paths that I did. He was in, drama in high school, and he liked a lot of the same things. And it turned out that he was doing YouTube stuff, and also was a big fan of yours. We talked about it. Yeah, and it was from your YouTube stuff, not from your Twitch stuff. He really didn't know much about your Twitch stuff.
Which blows my mind, because it's like, this is my primary platform.
Yeah, and he didn't even, and when I talked to him, he didn't know like who Corey was, who Gathalion was, or anything. He just, he was a fan of yours. And so, it was something that helped us kind of connect as well, on that front. And so, we, now we've been playing together. He's the one that got me to play Warframe, and I've been loving Warframe a lot,
That's so
the
much
last
fun.
few months. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've really connected, and it's been, it's been pretty huge for me to be able to reconnect, with my son and try to make up for a lot of that lost time.
Yeah, that's that was that when you told me that story about how you just randomly reconnected like through happenstance via Twitch with, like a member of your family is estranged, like you just didn't, like they were essentially lost. I think that's incredible. And it's one of the most powerful things that social media can do. Yeah. And in a world where everybody's focusing on all the negative and how it's bad and how like, well, the internet's tearing us all apart and all this other shit. I think it's incredible that you have such an amazing story, and that it's a great story. The results are good. Like nobody's angry at the end of the day. And it wouldn't have happened without like video games and Twitch and, everything else attached to it.
And it was so close for me just throwing it away too at the beginning, because of my own anger and paranoia about it,
Yeah.
So, but I was, I got lucky that I put that aside and was like, okay, let's give this a chance, and maybe it actually is, who he says he is.
Yeah. And I think that's another, that's something that I talk about a lot, and your evidence is just so practical. And that's why I wanted you to talk about it, is that if you give people a chance, sometimes, maybe a lot of times, you're going to be impressed. It could change your entire life. One conversation, giving one person a chance, like it's just huge. And your story is so evident of that, especially with your son. It just, I don't know, it makes me happy every time I hear it. And it's such like a life affirming, like, hey, look, everything's not awful conversation compared to what most people get to hear all the time, which is just negative shit. So I appreciate you sharing that a lot.
My pleasure.
Yeah, just thank you. So yeah, that's a little chat about everything. So if you've got a question for myself or for Mr. Angry Iceberg about Twitch or radio or life or anything, now is the point in the show where we are going to talk about that. So you can hop on into Discord right now. It's discord.gg/broman and hang out in one of the voice channels. This is how you access the podcast live. If you're listening to this later and you're like, damn it, I want to get on. Well, there's your first step. So let's grab, this guy's been in like every single week. and I wanted to chat with him. Hi, King. Is it King Romano? I believe. How are you today, sir?
It's Romeo.
Romeo.
Yes.
All right, dude. How are you?
I'm good. What about yourself?
I'm fantastic, my friend. What can we do for you?
So I have a question about life in general.
Okay.
So
I will do my best.
Starting off, I want to say that I'm a very, I really like to prepare myself for life.
Okay.
So I'm per se young. I'm 17 years old.
It's great.
And I'm the kind of guy that needs to know what to do in certain situations. For example, like how to take care of finances or take care of.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody has to learn how to do all that shit, man, for sure.
Yeah, but I like learning that like right now before I go into adult life.
Yeah.
So my question is about how to ignore negative comments or how to surpass those negative moments in your life.
Sure.
So you can achieve your goals.
Is this like online in particular or just in general?
Yeah, it's in general. For example, I want to be a PT, a personal trainer.
Yeah, awesome. That's great.
Sometimes people tell you that you can't. You're too skinny. It takes too long. You just go do something else.
I got you. Man, you got some assholes in your life.
Well, yeah, sure, why not? But for me,
I mean, listen, anyone who's shitting on your dream is an asshole. That's a fact.
Yeah, but for me, I just look at it like, okay, you're saying some bad stuff about my life. It's my life, so I'll just take that into consideration, and I'll prove you wrong. That I'll be better than you. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, you got a great mentality. I love hearing that. Mr. Iceberg, would you like to go first, and then?
Well, I think he's already in a really good spot. I think he almost answers his own question. Is that use it as motivation? This is something that I've thought a lot about. Is that you look a lot of people that are successful. They have a very similar story. You talk about a lot, Ben, and and you said it yourself, there, King. That people are always doubting you. People are always doubting you. So you come off and say, okay, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's a motivation. That's what drives you. It's like, you have a goal and you're going after it and you're going to prove them wrong. And one day you are, because you're driven. Yeah. And so, whereas, if you have a bunch of people, always praising you and saying you're great and you're doing this, like for me, for example, like for me, I've always been above average at just about anything I've done. I've found some sort of success in, in anything I've done, but I've never really achieved greatness in anything I've done. But at the same time, so it's if something's just kind of given to you, all the time, which kind of for me it has. I've always had a very supportive network of people that always, nobody ever said I couldn't do anything. My parents are always like, you could be whatever you want to be, you can do whatever you want to do, and that's great. But it didn't, drive me, because I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. And this is something that I've thought a lot about, and I was actually going to talk to you about too, and to get your thoughts on it. But having that chip on your shoulder is actually kind of a good thing. It benefits you, and it's an advantage in my eyes, because you're driven, you're willing to go out there and put in the work to prove them wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. But there's some days or some weeks or some months where you're just like, well, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of all these bad comments, and you just want to like quit. But there's other moments in your life where you're just like, okay, this is happening. What can I do to change it? And then I need to change it, because if not, I'll just quit, and then all my progress will go to the trash. So I just want to know, like, since you're way older than me, and you have a lot of years of experience dealing with negative stuff, like on Twitch and on King's Coast, which is going really well, I believe.
The coffee's going good.
That's great.
I mean, just to echo what was already said, you are in a good place because you have that chip on your shoulder that says, I want to prove you wrong. I don't know, like I have a lot of different tactics that I personally use when I'm feeling like everybody's just out to shit on my ideas. Primarily I just think like, fuck them. Like anytime, specifically on Twitch, right? If somebody is in such a bad emotional place that they have to go out with a pickaxe and try and chip off bits of happiness from other people just to hold it for like 5 seconds because they think that that's going to make them happy, like they're already in a horrible place. So I have a lot of, I guess, I'm empathetic towards people who try and troll me at this point in my life because, you know, I'm out here trying to do the best that I can, and you're literally just trying to ruin my happiness to get a little piece of your own. Like, you're already broken. So, you know, when I think about things that way, I'm just like, okay, like I don't want to take the time to worry about this person more than like, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. The flip side of that is when you're not in the best mental state, when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when shit that would normally not bug you gets to you because you're tired, which happens all the time. And I mean, it happens on Twitch, you know, and people who are like viewers, they'll be like, wow, I can't believe that you let that person bother you, because they ignore the other 10,000 times you ignored the exact same, you know, comment. And I think that that's more what you're talking about, is like when you're worn down and when you're exhausted and when you just like are sick of hearing it and you don't want to hear you're not going to do it one more time. You have to find a way, like whatever mental gymnastics or philosophical growth that you need to do to take that place of being like really low, like at the bottom, and realize that like it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it doesn't matter what other people say. When you get to the place where you're immune to that, you're completely unstoppable. Like,
yep. that kind of reminds me the mentality of, like, I don't know if you know this person, but Gary V. Yeah. He's very driven, and he is one of the idols that I follow every day, because he has a mentality of like, if someone is tormenting your dreams, or let's say kicking you in the trash, basically tell them to go fuck yourself, because that's everything you can do, and that's everything that will possibly stop it, and they can't change your life. It's your life. You have to control it.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. People only affect you if you give them permission to.
Exactly.
And so I think that we're naturally trained to give other people permission to control our lives. Like, it's just how we're conditioned growing up. Your parents, like, you have to listen to them. Otherwise, you know, you'll die. Because you're a little kid and you're going to fucking light yourself on fire or stick a fork in a light socket. It's like our whole life we are conditioned to accept other people's input into our life. But part of becoming an adult, and I think, or growing up, and this is a part of, you know, self-actualization that everyone doesn't complete, is realizing that if you're out there and you have if you have the best intentions at heart and you're just trying to grow as a person, you're trying to experience things, you're trying to found a business or, you know, become a personal trainer in your situation, the only reason someone would try and stop you, if it's a stranger, is because they're scared that you're going to succeed and they're not going to. Or, you know, name a fucking litany of things that's bad for them. Or if it's your parents, like in my situation with my parents, they're just telling you no because they're doing what's right. Like, they're doing what's right. My parents, when I told them I was going to be a full-time broadcaster, that I sat down with my dad and I was like, here's the fucking plan. Here's how this is working out. Here's how, you know, I'm going to make money. Here's how I'm going to pay my bills. Here's how things are trending. You know, like fucking this whole presentation, right? And he still said, I think this is a terrible idea. And I think you should finish going back to school. And I think you should get a job in the field that you were planning on. And I said, I'm not going to do that. You know, so my dad and I didn't talk for like 3 or 4 years until things, you know, finished sorting themselves out. So I don't know where the input is coming from for you, but you need to realize that you will never be happy unless you make choices that are focused on your goals and your dreams that belong to you. No matter what anyone else has planned for your life, no one else is going to wake up every morning, put on your shoes, eat your breakfast, and go out and live your life. And that realization will help you deal with all of the lowest lows, because it takes away the power of someone else to speak into your life and say, this is what I approve of, because they don't have to live your life, you do. And the more you can move that concept into the core of your thought process and who you are, the easier it gets over time.
Okay.
So that
answered my question. Yeah.
that's what I've been through. That's my input.
Yes.
So do you have any like social media, anything that you're working on right now that you want to tell people to follow so they can follow your journey from right now to becoming, a personal trainer, whatever you're going to be doing?
Yeah, sure. So on Instagram and on Twitter, I'm publicizing every day of the week instead of, with exception of Saturday and Sunday.
Sure.
My workouts and what I'm doing every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you can follow me at Instagram and Twitter at King ROMAO. And then I'll try to have Snapchat and Facebook also with that name.
Yeah. Fantastic, man. I'm excited. That's great. It's great that you're already out there doing that. I wish you nothing but success in the future. And yeah, you have a fantastic day, my dude.
Thanks, you too.
I think you brought this up and I wanted to make sure it didn't get lost in the conversation. But you brought up the idea that every successful person tends to share a story of like adversity, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like everybody's been through some bullshit, and the like emotional and physical resilience that you gain by going through that bullshit turns into the engine that you use to like drive your dreams.
Yeah, for sure.
I am a huge fan of being uncomfortable. Like if you live your entire life trying to insulate yourself and make sure like you never have any conflict and that you are always happy and that everything's great and you have no struggle in your life, which is easy to do now. Yeah. It's really, really easy to set your life up so that you don't ever really experience what it means to be uncomfortable. And I know some people listening, you're going to be like, that's bullshit. Like my life fucking sucks. And that's in this situation, that's great because you get a chance to learn from it. But if you are lucky enough to be in a situation where you can insulate yourself from like all of life's pain and woes and sorrows, don't do it. Find ways to get out there and make yourself uncomfortable and experience what it feels like to win and to lose and to put things on the line. Because until you do that, all of this little shit that bugs you and the shit that people say on the internet or the shit that your friends and family say to you in person, it's going to matter because that will be the peak experience of negativity in your life. But going out there and doing things on your term, winning or losing, is huge. And I can't recommend one practice enough, going out and getting uncomfortable. Whether it's, going out and doing physical like training of some sort or picking up a craft that you suck at, like whatever, you're a trust fund baby and your life's been handed to you. Go out there and try your hand at like woodworking, like something that, empirically you have no skill at, because learning what it's like to suck at something gives you so much perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, because life is always going to be throwing up roadblocks, and, learning to be able to get past those roadblocks is a great experience, like you're saying, because once you do, and you'll feel that sense of accomplishment. I'll hear a lot of people, this is something that's kind of new, I think, but a lot of people like taking cold showers in the morning. Like right in the morning. No, have you heard about this?
I used to do that. It sucks
because it makes them uncomfortable, but they get through that and now they're ready to attack the day,
Yeah.
Just be able to do that, because I face that, a lot now, especially with my stream, because I don't have the same concurrence as I used to, that I got used to. And so now it does, it mentally affects you as a streamer, somebody that has, certain goals. But then, being able to still hit that stream every day and know what's important has really kind of helped me pull through that, because, I'm sure you face that same thing too, where that mental is like, okay, what am I doing wrong? But, sometimes it's not what you're doing wrong, but learning how to, work through that stuff and keep moving on is really definitely an important life lesson.
Yes. It's one of the, it's one of, if not the most important practices that you can ever, I don't know, like get used to.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter whether you're struggling to finish, in school, school was really hard for me. Like just sitting down and doing the work of something that you suck at teaches you so much about yourself. And that is transitional knowledge. Like the effort that I put into school and, learning how to fucking read 5 books a week when I was in my master's program and write 20 pages a week and all this other shit when I have like some pretty rough learning disabilities. Like that has taught me so much about sticking to it in every other part of my life.
Right.
It's huge. All right. Let's grab the great Manzini, because his name sounds like a magician and I dig it.
What
What's
hey,
up,
Broman,
man?
how's it
How
going?
are you?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the show, Iceberg. It's a pleasure
Yo.
listening to you.
Thanks, man.
So I got a couple questions for you, if you got the time for them.
Always.
Well, me and a colleague of mine just launched a podcast last fall. We've been pulling in about 20 viewers an episode, and we both work in like the technical side of broadcast television.
Okay.
So when it comes to like quality and content, we feel like we're pretty like well off and we're well versed in that. And so what we really are lacking and having a hard time with is reaching more people and building a larger audience. And I was wondering if you guys had any tips to kind of spread outreach to more people.
I mean, I have some tips, but I'll let Mr. Iceberg go first since he is our guest.
Well, one of the things, especially with podcasting, there's always places to go. Like forums, is a good place to start. Depending on what your content is. What is the content of your podcast?
We do like a gaming news weekly. Every Friday we record the show and try to get it out Saturday or Sunday morning. And then we do YouTube as well, which I try to get out Monday or Tuesday. So I do the audio and then release the videos kind of as soon as I get them finished. So.
Okay. Yeah, so just being a part of those, those communities, especially if there's specific games that you really like to cover or genres and stuff like that, finding all the communities you can, and being active in them, is really important, whether it's on Reddit or specific, forums for a publisher or a game dev, and just really, sinking your teeth into those directories and really getting to know people in those, and just getting your name out there and being recognizable. And again, we talk a lot about network and forming relationships. That's going to really do a lot to and just reaching out to people, especially if you like having guests on, just reach out to people and say, hey, you want to be a part of this, because most people are going to want to be on your podcast. Like I put out a tweet the other day, and this was after talking to Ben and about being on here. I was like, hey, I like doing podcasts. I like talking about stuff that I'm passionate about, and most people are going to be the same way. They want to talk, they want to talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves.
That's true.
So reach out. Just reach out to people. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be Lyric or even Professorbroman, but it just reach out to different people and just engage in people and provide value to them as they provide value to you, and then it'll kind of have a snowball effect in that respect. And I'll let Ben kind of talk more about the social media side of it.
Yeah. So everything he brought up was great. The idea of bringing on more guests is huge.
Right.
Like everyone does like to talk about themselves. Like you're never going to run into a situation where folks will be like, I'd rather fucking not. People enjoy having conversations about themselves, and I think that everyone likes to learn. One of the coolest things about the podcasting space is that it's been around for a while, but it's still getting started in a lot of ways. And when you take the time to bring in people from like every space that's connected to yours, growth just sort of happens naturally because people like content that matches their needs. And now that we're at a point in human history where you have, you know, a $20,000 worth of technology in your pocket, you know, like you have the entire catalog of fucking Circuit City from 1995, like all that shit's in your phone.
True.
So being able to utilize all of that magic, bring people into your space, and then put out content that's specialized, like you said. Like, what's your podcast is about gaming, but you both have a background.
We call ourselves like the Real World Gaming Cast because we want to kind of represent the working Joe, like the average people, those that aren't necessarily like on Twitch every day streaming or, you know, angry about everything, but more so the people that, you know, that just come home from work every day and want to just sit down and play some games.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of broad, and we're trying to kind of, we took a brief hiatus in January during like all the holidays and everything, so we could sit down and kind of rack our own brains. And that was when I discovered your podcast, and kind of I'm trying to think of our own way to, you know, reach out to people and get that kind of message across.
Yeah.
So that we can build our community. And
you build your community. So this is the thing, and I think that everybody fucking misses the point. You build your community by building other communities.
Gotcha.
And this is the thing, is that everybody wants to say, come watch my shit, come watch my shit, come watch my shit. Take. Right? Everyone wants to take. And I have, as a practice, since I started streaming on Twitch to now, all my content is free. All my content is available to everybody whenever they want. I don't ever put a paywall behind it. And then even like this conversation is a microcosm of an expression of that. Like I could, there's a lot of people who try to like charge money to get advice about how to operate the best way inside of a space, whether it's, you know, streaming or small business or whatever.
Yeah.
But I give everything that I can. And I think it's such a crucial aspect of whatever you're trying to do, is like in any content creation.
Right.
You just have to give. So getting involved with forums, getting involved in other people's podcasts, being guests, inviting people to be guests on your podcasts, getting out there on social media, finding those people who are listening to your podcast, who are downloading it, and telling them thank you personally. That's one of the things that we did since day one with King's Coast. That's one of the reasons why it was so successful. You know, Pete and Wayne operate all of our social media, and like the direction of our social media from the beginning was the purpose of our Twitter account and our Instagram account and everything is to inform people if we have new shit. And then every other tweet that we make from that account is telling people thank you for being part of our company, for taking a risk to buy our whatever, you know?
Right.
So that is like, that's it. That's the whole game, is investing in other people, because everyone wants a friend. And it is an often forgotten aspect of growing your personal brand, which is you don't go anywhere without other people.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to kind of echo that with when I first began streaming. I did a lot of research. Like I said, I was taking in every bit of content I could, from podcasts to YouTube videos to forums. And an article I came upon that was, it said a lot of stuff that's fairly common knowledge, or not common knowledge, but I mean, it's shared a lot. You know, you'll find when you're talking about looking for tips, this shares a lot of it with other avenues. But one of the things that always stuck with me, and it's not something that gets talked about a lot, was the mantra of promote others more than you promote yourself. And that was something that, you know, that mantra, I lived by, you know, especially very early in my career. I kind of fell away from it, but I'm trying to get back into that. But it's definitely true. Like, and that echoes exactly what Professor Broman just said. So I think that's definitely a great path to go by.
Yeah. So what sort of, like on a practical level, what sort of distribution are you doing right now for your podcast?
Well, right now we've got Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we're starting to think about boosting posts on Facebook using their
Facebook advertising is great.
Right.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, we just have to pull in the money. We're not doing a Patreon or anything. We don't want to charge people for our content. So it's going to be us, making enough money to do a solid promotion. And then aside from that, just trying to be consistent and trying to deliver content. So we're on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, YouTube, like I said.
Yeah.
We're going to try to start doing Mixer and Twitch more. Restreaming to both, just to kind of build more content for both our YouTube and to kind of help, again, build the community. Just doing little plays of who knows what together. He's mostly a PC gamer. I'm mostly a PS4 gamer, but I've convinced him to pick up a PlayStation. So we're bridging that gap so we can we've got plans to play some Monster Hunter next week and kind of stream it out on everything.
That'll be awesome.
But yeah, so we're just kind of we're reaching out to other friends that we know that are doing podcasts and other smaller people and just kind of sharing out organically. And like I said, we're averaging about 20 to 30 views an episode, or views or listens an episode.
Downloads.
So yeah. So Podbean we've really liked, and we've gotten a little bit of growth from that. So we switched over from SoundCloud to Podbean, and that's been helpful.
Are you guys active on Anchor at all?
I was a little bit before we launched this podcast. So I was just doing a little weekly news thing for people, and I'm sharing it out on Facebook. Just kind of as my first step to get into podcasting.
Yeah, so. There's not a lot of gaming content on Anchor. And if your goal is to kind of grow and facilitate community and things like that, Anchor's whole situation is to facilitate communication and to be an audio app for voice. So it's if you were to go over there and run your show normally, but then also have folks call in with questions and stuff, this is another way for you to get a larger community involvement, because every single person who ever calls into your show is probably going to tune into it forever, because now they're not just a listener, they are an active part of it.
Right.
And then they become part of advertising your broadcast, because they're like, oh, god damn, these people are cool. I was on it, and then we talked about this, and this. You should get on sometime and talk about this. And then slowly over time, you build a massive following, one person at a time.
Gotcha.
Which is still that's still a mindset that I have, no matter how long I've done Twitch. It's always one person at a time.
Well, and that kind of leads me into the other question I wanted to ask. And we've been toying with the idea of adding more shows to our network. And I was going to ask you when you think that's a good time. But I guess since you brought up Anchor, would it be a good idea to do maybe multiple platforms, even to have a more daily kind of shortened version of our full podcast on Anchor?
I mean, yeah, and, the whole point of Anchor is yes, everything you said, yes.
Okay.
Doing more is always a good move.
Well, I don't want to confuse people by pushing out too much content.
You really can't.
You can't. That's just the thing, is the more you put out there, the better you are, especially in the podcast space. Because there's people like myself, for example, if I could get a Professorbroman podcast every single day of the week, I would love that. Because that's when they come out, that's the first thing I listen to when I get to work in the morning. And so, people want that content, especially if they become fans of you. They want it every single day. And there's really no having too much. Now, there's different people will have different tastes as far as length of the podcast and whatnot. But I know that, one great thing about podcasting versus live streaming is that you can really, and even YouTube's kind of the same way with podcasting, is that you can record a bunch of content and then release it, periodically, every day. So you could record, 5 podcasts all in one day, and there's your content.
It's true.
Right.
I release,
same thing with YouTube, so.
and that's the thing, is that people get so worried about optimizing for data analytics and search engine optimization and all this other shit, and making sure everything's perfect and making sure everything's great and nothing's wrong and no one will ever hate it, chasing these bullshit goals instead of actually just doing it. Just make more content.
Yeah.
Give yourself more bets on the table that'll pay off. Instead of trying, like, yeah, obviously you should have tentpole content that's your absolute best effort, but not every single thing that you do needs to be that.
Copy that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give. And it took me the longest to learn. Like, I used to just, if it's not perfect, I'm not putting it out there. And now I'm just like, fuck it. Like, fuck it. This might help one person. Like, this might be the one thing someone needs to hear today. And even though I feel like it's not my best effort, it still has value. So I'm going to put it out there.
Got it.
Now,
so I guess I'll confer with my colleague and start pushing more things out.
Pushing stuff out on Anchor. I really, they have a smart game plan and they're doing unique stuff.
It's so easy.
I'm not nearly as active over there as I want to be because I kind of run out of time in my day right now. But, you know, I'm going to be getting back over there and doing a lot more once I find the time. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
No problem, man. You want to let everybody know where they can find your podcast and follow both of you?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter. My personal Twitter is the Great Manzini. The first I is a 1.
Okay.
Because someone else stole it. And our podcast is on Twitter as well at World Gaming Champions. If you want to look for it on YouTube.
World Gaming Champions. I like it.
Yeah. We're the Real World Gamecast, and our network is the Real World Gaming Champions. So, yeah, our podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean. We have a YouTube up. We've broken our YouTube videos down so that it's not a full 1-hour video. It is now like segmented into about 3 videos a week. So, yeah, any of y'all want to check out any of that, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, all the typical places.
That's awesome,
Real World
man.
Gamecast. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on, dude. You have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye. That was good, man. I need to have you on more, AngryIceberg. You get all the good questions out of people, man.
No, dude. Like I said, you just ask me and I'll be here, man. Like, seriously, I love doing this stuff. Like, Manzini, you need a guest. Like, let me know. I just love doing these. And it's not because I'm trying to, get out there and promote myself. It's because I actually have fun doing this. And that was one of my goals this year. Is just to do stuff that I think is fun. I've already been in talks with my dude, Guardian Outpost. I've been trying to talk him into doing a podcast with me because he actually worked for iHeart Media as well. He also currently works for the radio, and so we had a really good bond. Yeah,
like
there.
You guys could do like the radio professional pod. See, like that's the shit, man. Like, I would want to listen to that so hard.
Yeah, and see, that's what we tried to. I was like, because I've been talking to him. I was like, look, we need to do. Play. That's one thing you want to do is play to your strengths. Whatever you're doing as far in media, right?
Yeah.
And so both of us, he always wanted to have a morning show on the radio, and that's why he started streaming, because that was his morning show. He always streams in the morning, so he wanted to have a morning show. And so I was like, dude, why don't we just, I've been talking to him. It's like, and the timing thing's kind of rough because he's pretty all the time. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, busy.
But it's like we need to find a time to do this, because we could just basically do a podcast that's just a morning show and have fun with it. Just put it out in a podcast form. And you never know, it could, maybe somebody, would hear that and be like, hey, you guys want to come to work?
Exactly. Like, I'm obsessed with the idea of placing as many bets on the table as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's starting to bleed out into like all my content. That's why. And you even brought this up. Like, I upload to my podcast feed. I didn't because when I had the flu, but I upload to the podcast feed every single day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have I have 10 poll content. I do this 3 times a week, and then this gets redistributed on YouTube, and I clip bits for Instagram and stuff and all this other stuff. But I still put out one podcast episode every single day. Whether it's, 2 minutes of a quick thought for somebody to launch themselves into their day with a good mindset, or it is, a 2-hour conversation with someone. Sure. It's so important because I don't know who's listening, and I don't know, like, maybe that 2-minute episode that I put out this morning when I was fucking exhausted and tired and wasn't sure what to talk about. And then I just kind of went off the top of my head and talked about something I was passionate about. Like, that could change someone's life. Every single piece of content you make has this potential.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And to add to that, it kind of reminds me when I was early in my streaming career, that was kind of my mantra is like, go live. You never know who's going to be watching. You never know. That could be that one person's going to make all the difference, in your stream. And early on, I found that person that really helped me gain a lot of confidence in my stream. He hasn't been around for a very long time, but he definitely helped me grow my community in the early stages. And then at the same time, there was, like, for example, the first time King Ithalian sent a raid my way. And, what if I had not been live at that time?
Right.
What if I had decided, that, maybe that day I wasn't live. And so he went and raided somebody else. And it was, and what came out of that, it wasn't so much that all of a sudden I got huge after that raid. But what happened was that the people that came with that raid are still, people that are still around now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somebody in chat right now, Scarlett, who has been around since then, and her husband, and have been amazing parts of my community and close friends ever since. And so it's like, you never know, what could happen that day. If you take that day off, I mean, you have to take days off.
Yeah, you still have to take care of yourself, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that one day could be
why it's worth always taking another chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's always worth getting back after it, even if people are trolling you and being pieces of shit.
Yeah.
It's always worth another chance. I love that. We probably have time for like one more person. Like I said, I'm trying to have this on Anchor more, so I need to keep it under 90 minutes. Well, let's get Brosefcion in here. Brosefcion. See, I always say the name wrong, obviously.
I know, I did too. And then I talked to her and I got it ironed out. So
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Wonderful. How's it going with you? So say your name again so I don't say it wrong.
It's Brosefcion, but most people just call me Brofish.
Brosefcion. Okay. All right, Brofish.
Yeah.
So what can we do for you?
I saw, I think it was about a week or two ago, there was a tweet that there was a thread that you and 55 were talking about.
Okay.
On Twitter, and it was relating to your tolerance for people in chat and things like that. So like when to ban people and when to let things go, and like whether or not you should sacrifice viewers. Like if someone's going to be a dirtbag to you, do you really want them in your channel type thing? And so I guess I just wanted to discuss that, and like I thought it could help other people who are thinking of streaming too, and any growing streamers who are just, they're struggling for viewers and they're like, well, I don't want to ban this person because I don't want to lose the only viewer I have, and so I just thought that would be a good point to bring up and a good thing to talk about. Sure.
So at the core of all this, and this is something that's applicable for everyone, not just broadcasters, is you are responsible for your community, and you are responsible for curating your community, right? Your community is a reflection of you. If everyone in your community is a big piece of shit and they're angry and they're always fighting, people are going to assume that that's what you're like. That's the kind of community and channel that you promote. If everyone's nice and helpful and kind and welcoming, they're going to assume that that's the kind of person that you are. And this is another thing, and I'm glad you brought it up, that people don't think about. They just sort of set it and forget it with their content, and they don't interact with people who are consuming their content. So you'll have really disgusting communities show up around people and personalities that are actually quite kind. So my approach on Twitch is my chat rules are simple on Twitch. It's be excellent to each other. That's it. If you're not being excellent to someone else, fuck you and get out of my channel.
Exactly.
And I've had that attitude from the beginning, because there are enough places online that are filled with bullshit and anger and rage and hate and intolerance. that I don't want to be one, part of that problem, and two, like I'm not that kind of person in real life, so why would I allow that kind of community around me online? So anytime I've had anyone ever cross a line with me, it's been really short and swift. And yeah, I might go back privately and try and have a conversation with someone and be like, listen, I really don't understand why you acted like that or did that or said that. Doesn't seem like you. But if you're just starting and you're allowing people who are, racist or sexist or however you want to put it into your community from the start, that's only going to amplify because that's what your base is going to look like. And I can't recommend enough having a moral code that matches with who you are and continuously enforcing it no matter where you're making content. Awesome. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's exactly the correct answer. You definitely want the chat to reflect your personality and whatnot. The thing that's really important to recognize too is that a lot of your community is going to be lurkers, and so people are going to come in not even to say anything, but if they see that and that's not what they want to be a part of, they're going to leave.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you got your chat is definitely going to be a part of attracting more to your community, not just your personality, but the interactions that your chat has, because some people this is what their social interaction is, because in this day and age it's harder and harder to get out and have social interaction. But so some people, and especially people that are socially awkward, don't want to go out, this is a good place for them to get that social interaction, because we're all humans, we need that, right? So yeah, definitely 100%, what Broman said, 100%, and just
Yeah. Do you have any sort of follow-up questions or like practical questions about like the best ways to go about doing that or anything like that?
The other thing is like, I don't know if it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I want to get into the whole like females on Twitch thing, but I don't know.
Please do. That's why we're doing this.
Let's do it.
But very often I find like if I try to like explain myself, or if I try to like, if someone's an ass to me and I respond back, I'm the rude one.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on. And I try to justify myself, and I'm just like,
and then you're a bitch, right? Yeah.
For being an ass. Like,
yeah. I get that.
Like if I'm streaming by myself and I don't necessarily want to be in voice chat with, I was playing the Monster Hunter beta, and someone was getting really angry with me because I wouldn't voice chat while hunting like something in the beta. And I was like, dude, like I'm talking to chat right now. Can we just like chill? And he's like, you're so rude. Why won't you talk to people on voice chat? And I was just like, really?
Yeah.
Like, and exclude the other people in the chat? Like, yeah.
So I'm obviously not a woman, right?
Are you sure?
I'm relatively positive. But for me, at least that particular thing, dealing with folks being rude, and then folks being like, oh, well, you're just an asshole. Like, I don't understand how you would ever. That's a relatively, at least on my experience on Twitch, like that's a problem that I encounter is I try and enforce, my reality or like enforce the fact that like, this is my house and you will respect my rules. And if you don't, then you're going to be removed. People in general don't like being told no. Like they just don't like it. We live in at least online, everyone's used to getting everything that they want within a incredibly short time scale, right? Like folks, you want an app, you download it, it's 5 minutes. You want a car to come pick you up and drive you to Disney World, you can call an Uber. I think for me, I think my value as a human being is greater than anyone else's opinion. Like I refuse to compromise who I am or what I believe in for anyone, even if they think it makes me look like an asshole. And I think that that's the best approach, like regardless of, gender, color of your skin, religious beliefs, like you you have a moral code, you have a compass, you have a way that you do things, and folks can either accept that or they can fuck off. And I just have a hard time caring anymore. And I had a hard time caring in the beginning too, because why would you want to come here and ruin everyone else's good time just because you're unhappy?
Exactly. Yeah, I just don't get that sometimes when people are like, well, I'm unhappy, so I'm going to make you unhappy too.
Exactly.
And I'll be unhappy together. And then like, and then there like, when I don't know if this is females or anything in particular, but like I said, playing Monster Hunter and I invite people, they're like begging to play with me, and I'm like, all right, we can play together. And then afterwards they're like, bitch, I carried you. And I'm like, excuse me?
Wow, that's fucked up. Those sound like incomplete people.
Yeah.
It's just like, you spent 5 minutes like begging to play with me only so you could like
say shit like that.
You must have some sort of complex.
Yeah, that's insane. Jesus Christ. No, I'm actually blown away by that. I can't even imagine that.
Honestly, I debated not ever streaming Monster Hunter again after that. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this launch stream.
Because people were so shit about it.
I was so scared that if I went into the Monster Hunter directory that people would eat me alive.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And I mean, I found exactly the opposite. Everybody's been completely fine, and Monster Hunter's incredible, and it's amazing, and I love it. Yeah,
it's a great, it's a great community.
Yeah, I mean, I played since 4U, so. Yeah,
I've been playing since 3U. It's so good. I didn't know that. We need to play together sometime.
Yeah,
I don't know. This whole problem has like a level of depth and complexity that is hard to deal with inside of 15 minutes, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, which is why definitely we're gonna be I want to try and get together like a panel and do a larger show about this topic in particular in the future.
I would love to be involved if that's something
you're invited.
Yay! You just made my day.
But I think that like I think ultimately man, woman, like I think that at the end the play is the same, and that's you just cannot let people disrespect you, and you have to be willing to take like a short-term loss, right? In order to make a long-term gain. And the short-term loss is, you have to have an uncomfortable conversation with the viewer, or you have to deal with sexism or negativity or whatever the bullshit is that is happening. And yeah, like that's like short-term, that's absolutely a loss. Like you get in a fight with somebody, you have a bad day and all that other shit. But by taking those short-term losses and investing in the long term of your channel or whatever you're doing, it makes all of those things have value in the long term, right? Like that fight that you had has value a year from now because everyone who's watching you knows that you don't take shit, and they're going to actively promote, through their viewership or their conversations in chat, and the interaction with other people who come into your channel, like how your channel works and how everyone treats each other and how you're to be treated as a broadcaster as well. I think that that's a part of the equation that people ignore too often, is that like people are like, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a person. But if you let people treat you like shit, you're not really reinforcing your own narrative. Right. So like I said, it's a big, sticky, difficult problem, and we definitely need to address it. I want to address it in a larger format, but for now, my advice to you would be like, take the short-term loss of enforcing your value as a person. And like, I use short-term loss, like in the loosest possible terms, because I don't think that that's ever, you should never, ever put up with racism, sexism, anything just for someone's viewership, because if that's what it takes to get their viewership, they're not worth it as a person ever, period. And if you've like, I always have this advice to everyone, or I give this advice if you ever need to like crowdsource an idea or like bounce an idea of how to deal with some bullshit off of someone. Like my DMs are always open. This goes for not just you, but everyone. Dealing with negativity online is really hard, and I've made a point of it, a point of combating it on my channel and with everything I do since day one. And it takes a team effort, and so I am always available to, help.
Okay.
You and anyone who's listening, if you're working on shit and you have negative elements in your stream or in your content, whatever it is, and you don't know how to deal with it the right way, I've put up with a lot of shit and dealt with a lot of shit, and I do this podcast and I have my DMs open on the platforms where it makes sense because I want to make myself a resource. So I'm always there if you need to chat about anything.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think so. I love like it's so ugly, but I love the fact that just like at the beginning we were talking about, like social media has this incredible power to bring people together, reconnect families, things like that. It also has such a capacity to affect social change, but that only works if everyone works together, which you have to do, and you have to make yourself available to do that. I guess now I'm preaching to literally everyone, but help each other the fuck out. Don't let people fight their battles alone. Put yourself out there, give, and be a part of it. Because that's the only way it gets better. So Brofish, thank you so much for like the incredible conversation and reminding me how much more we need to talk about, specifically the gender stuff on Twitch, because that's been a hot topic for a while. But yeah, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitch at Brosufficient. It's spelt as phonetically, it's spelled Brosif is on.
Okay.
I'll just throw myself in chat here for a sec.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Me with my little fishy emotes. They're super cute. And I'm on Instagram and Twitter at the exact same username. So, and same with like, if you want to add me on PSN, same thing. Everything's the same. I managed to secure the name.
Cross-branding. You're better at it than I am. My brand. You nailed it. All right, everyone, go follow Brosufficient right now. Thoughtful, kind, and wonderful person, obviously, and well-deserving of your attention. You have a fantastic day.
You as well, and congrats on your 5 year.
5 years on Twitch. Yeah, it's wild.
And your hoodie is super comfortable, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you like the hoodie. We've got some more designs coming out soon. I'm glad you like it.
All right, bye, Angry. Bye, Broman.
Yo, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, 100%. Everybody follow her. She is super awesome. I've known her for a while now. I've played Warframe with her and stuff. She is a super sweetheart and really positive and an amazing streamer. And everybody
and she don't take no shit.
And she didn't take, yeah, exactly. She didn't take
Don't you shit. Fucking dare come from this podcast and go like, I carried you, bitch. That the things that I don't know because I am a man, and then I find them out and it makes me fucking super furious. So yeah, we are gonna I definitely want to do a podcast where we get a bunch of ladies from social media and we talk about not just the shit that they go through, but the shit that is necessary for all of us to do to put an end to that garbage, because it needs to fucking stop.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the day. Like lots of great conversations. AngryIceberg, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you, since you've been they've been listening to you the whole time and people are thirsty for the shout out. So
yeah, for sure. You can find me on twitch.tv/angry_iceberg right here. Every single day, you can find me some content. Some days I do take off, but check me out on Twitter as well. Same thing, angry_iceberg. on Instagram as well as Angry_Iceberg. I need to do more with Instagram. I really do. It's been
Instagram's a fucking blast, man. I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah, but it's one of my goals to try to get more content up on there. Just haven't got it done yet. I'm also on Facebook, The Angry Iceberg, and YouTube, Angry Iceberg TV, which again, I need to do more with that. But usually I just find random stuff to throw up there because I never have any good ideas to put up there. But I do want to do more stuff with that. But yeah, so those are the social medias that you can catch me on. Tonight, actually, I'm going to be on another podcast. I want to shout out.
Yeah, do it.
The Flakes of Wrath podcast is Things About Things.
Things about things. Okay.
Things about things. Yeah. It's a group of guys that do that. And I'll have a link for that in my Twitter today. So make sure you check that out as well. And you can also join my Discord, discord.gg/angry- not underscore this time. Angry-iceberg. For some reason, they wouldn't let me do underscore. I don't know what the deal with that is, but so Discord's weird, but you can get that out. We have some community spots there, like my Monster Hunter discussion. If you want to find people to play Monster Hunter, or if you just want to come in and chat, definitely check that out. And one quick thing I want to just mention, because something I've thought about, we talk about naming conventions.
Yeah.
As far as, people thinking about naming, and I just want to kind of bring this up because I hadn't heard you really talk about it. In some of the the advice that you had given. Now the normal stuff that you talk about, numbers, X's, underscores, all that stuff. You want to try to avoid. I couldn't avoid it because reasons, but underscores I don't think are as bad. I'm kind of biased as like numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the big thing is the one thing that when I came with my name, I wanted something that was easy to remember.
Yeah.
It's something that I learned from a guy that when I was playing music, when we were trying to think of a band. He was like, you should name your band. I'm like, what? He said, Daddy Longleg. I'm like, that's dumb. He's like, no, think about it. People will remember that, you think of all these different names, I've run into people that I've actually met, and I'm horrible with names, right? But, they said what their Twitch name was, and for the life of me, I could never remember it. So just something that's easy to remember is pretty important. That's one of the reasons why, having numbers and X's and all that stuff can make difficult. But if it's something that's easy to remember, sticks in your brain, it's kind of important as well.
No, that's fucking some naming conventions, man. It's important, especially when you're starting off.
Yeah, nice. 100%. Part of that branding, man.
For sure. All right. And as always, I have been Professor Broman. Thank you so much for listening. Really good conversations today. If you enjoyed the podcast at all, please, rate the podcast. You can give it 1 star, 5 stars. I really don't give a shit. I'm just happy that you're here. And if you super loved it, you can hit the subscribe button, and that'd be dope. We record this 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, live on Twitch, twitch.tv/ProfessorBroman. I'm Professor Broman everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, peace.